There are a few hotels in Japan that look no different from any regular tourist accommodation, yet the moment local people hear their names, they naturally keep their distance. Some guests say that the moment they opened the door to their room, they were hit by a strong, indescribable smell of a rotting corpse. Others say they were woken up in the middle of the night by knocking on their door, followed by a woman's voice inside the room, even though no one was actually there. What makes all of this even more unsettling is that these 3 hotels are still in operation today. Every day, new guests check in, and many of them claim to have personally experienced the strange events that have been passed down for years. Today, we're going to look at Japan's 3 most haunted hotels, and why even now many Japanese people avoid mentioning them casually. The 3 hotels we're talking about today, Shinjuku Washington Hotel, New Star Hotel Yamanakako, and Ikebukuro's Sunshine City Prince Hotel, became well known not for their comfort or convenience, but because of the incidents that happened inside them. And if you're planning a trip to Japan soon, this video might make you think twice about the hotel you've booked, whether the room is really meant for just one person. Shinjuku has always been one of the most iconic areas in Tokyo. The lights here feel like they never turn off, but the brighter a place is, the easier it is to overlook the shadows hiding in the corners. Many Japanese people believe Shinjuku's atmosphere and safety are not ideal, and the reason Shinjuku Washington Hotel became a symbol of a haunted hotel is all because of a murder case that remains unsolved to this day. The incident happened on September 5th, 2008, a day that seemed completely ordinary for the hotel. After guests checked out, the housekeeper started her usual cleaning routine. She was in charge of the 24th floor, and on her list, the most troublesome room, the one she purposely left for last, was room 237. The guest had stayed there for more than a week without requesting any cleaning. After so many years in this job, she knew exactly what that meant. The room would likely be a complete mess, and she had already prepared herself mentally. But what was waiting for her wasn't a dirty room. It was a smell she would never forget for the rest of her life. The moment she tapped the room card and opened the door, a strong, heavy stench rushed out, clinging to her nose like something thick and rotten. It wasn't garbage, and it wasn't spoiled food. It was deeper, heavier, like the kind of smell that comes from a decaying body. The housekeeper didn't dare step inside. She immediately closed the door, because her years of experience told her exactly what that smell meant. The hotel supervisor and security were urgently called, and once everyone arrived, they opened the door together. The smell was even stronger this time, almost suffocating, but strangely, the room was not messy at all. There was no trash everywhere, nothing looked disturbed, and the room was cleaner than expected. That made the smell feel even more unreasonable. Everyone's eyes eventually settled on a suitcase in the corner of the room. It was clear the smell was coming from inside. When the police arrived and opened it, they found the body of a woman, around 60 years old, forced into an unnatural position and stuffed inside the luggage. Based on the level of decomposition, she had been dead for at least 7 days. In theory, a murder inside a hotel should be easy to investigate. Checking the registration records should have led them straight to the suspect. But this time, the police found nothing useful. The hotel records showed that the woman had checked in with a man, but he had used a fake ID, making it impossible to trace his real identity. He had already left the hotel before the body was discovered, disappearing completely as if he had planned everything in advance. What made things even stranger was that the pair had changed rooms multiple times during their stay. Room 237 was already their 3rd room. No one knew which room the woman had actually died in, nor when she was placed inside the suitcase. The entire case felt deliberately erased. No first crime scene, no footprints, no clear cause of death. To this day, the case has never progressed. From that point on, Shinjuku Washington Hotel was covered by a lingering shadow. Many guests, especially those who stayed on the 23rd floor, reported strange experiences. Some said they suddenly smelled a strong odor like rotting meat. Some saw the silhouette of a middle-aged woman drifting into the stairwell at the end of the hallway. Others were awakened at night by knocking, only to open the door and find the hallway completely empty. As these stories spread, the hotel gradually gained a reputation as a haunted hotel. In 2015, the hotel underwent major renovations in hopes of getting rid of this reputation. But for many Japanese people, the most unforgettable thing about Shinjuku Washington Hotel is not its location or its facilities. It is the memory of that suitcase that was opened in the corner of a quiet room 15 years ago. The area around Mount Fuji has always been one of the most popular places for travelers to stay. When you open your curtains in the morning, the view of Fuji is right there. The lake, the hot springs, and the walking trails make the whole place feel peaceful and healing, whether you're traveling as a couple, with family, or with friends. Because of this, the number of hot spring hotels around Lake Yamanaka has been increasing in recent years. But there is one hotel that is not famous for its scenery at all. It is known because it sits close to Japan's most well-known suicide forest, Aokigahara. This is the New Star Hotel Yamanaka-go. Aokigahara itself is one of the eeriest places in Japan. For many years, people have taken their own lives inside the forest, and the atmosphere there is heavy. Even walking inside during the day can make you feel uncomfortable. Since the hotel is located so close to the forest, and because there have been several suicide cases in the surrounding area, guests gradually began to describe the hotel as having a strange atmosphere. Among all the stories, the most widely talked about one is about a tour guide named Chioju. She was well-liked in the industry, cheerful, optimistic, and very professional when leading tours. She didn't look like someone who would ever do anything extreme, but during one trip, after her group checked in to the New Star Hotel, her behavior suddenly became unusual. Tourists and colleagues felt something was wrong with her mood, but no one expected that the next morning, she would take her own life without any warning. Her death shocked everyone in the group. She had shown no signs beforehand, and she left no note. Nobody understood why she suddenly made such a decision. Because of this, rumors spread that Chioju might not have realized she had already died. People said her spirit stayed in the hotel, continuing to do the things she used to do every day as a tour guide. Many guests later reported that they were woken in the middle of the night by knocking on their door. Outside, they heard a gentle female voice saying, "It's time to wake up, you're going to be late." But when they opened the door, the hallway was completely empty. Some guests also said they suddenly received phone calls in their rooms during the early hours of the morning. When they answered, there was only static, mixed with a low female voice saying, "It's time to go." So many people believed those sounds were the last habits she left behind. Because the hotel had collected so many stories over the years, it later underwent a major renovation in hopes of changing the public's impression. However, even after being completely remodeled, many people still refuse to stay there. For them, the most disturbing things in this hotel are not the old facilities, but the knocking sounds in the middle of the night, the ringing phones, and the voices that should not exist at all. The Sunshine City Prince Hotel in Ikebukuro used to be a well-known high-end hotel in Tokyo. When it was completed in 1978, it had a grand lobby, impressive elevators, a 38-story building, and more than 1,000 rooms. With convenient transportation and modern facilities, it attracted many business travelers and tourists. However, the reason Japanese people now call it the most because the land used to be the site of Sugamo Prison has nothing to do with its facilities. Sugamo Prison was built in 1895. After World War II, it held a large number of war criminals, including Class A war criminals. Even the mastermind behind the Pearl Harbor attack, Hideki Tojo, once served time there. This location was also where executions were carried out. After the war, when the U.S. military took over, nearly 60 prisoners were executed here. With a hotel built right on a place like this, it naturally carried a heavy and oppressive atmosphere, and strange encounters reported by guests never truly disappeared. One story from a mainland Chinese traveler is especially representative. He accidentally stayed at this hotel because he hadn't done any research beforehand. After checking into the 29th floor, he felt something was wrong the moment he stepped into his room. The lighting seemed strangely dim, and the atmosphere made him uneasy. But since he was traveling abroad, he had no choice but to stay. Late at night, he noticed something odd about the carpet. Besides his own footprints, another set suddenly appeared, as if someone else were walking around the room. While he was still frozen with fear, the small bell hanging on his backpack began to ring, over and over again, not just once or twice. The windows were closed, there was no wind, yet the bell shook violently as if someone was grabbing it. The experience terrified him. The next morning, he checked out immediately, unwilling to stay in the hotel for even a moment longer. And his story wasn't the only one. Other guests claimed that when they woke up in the middle of the night, they found their wardrobe door wide open, with a small boy crouching inside as if playing hide and seek. Some reported hearing the sound of soldiers marching down the hallway, but when they opened the door, the corridor was empty and the footsteps suddenly vanished into thin air. Over the years, more and more rumors have surrounded the Sunshine City Prince Hotel, and it has even been voted multiple times as one of the places Japanese people least want to stay in. Although the hotel is still operating normally, most of the guests who stay there today are tourists who don't know its history, while locals tend to stay far away from it. As for this hotel, I've actually made a full video about it before. If you haven't watched it yet, you can go back and take a look. Each of these 3 hotels has its own story. Some people believe these events are just coincidences, while others think they're exaggerated by online rumors. But those who have stayed in these places never forget the feeling. Some things cannot be erased by renovations, and they don't disappear just because the lights are bright. On the outside, they may look like ordinary hotels, but what truly unsettles guests isn't the room itself. It's the sudden sounds, the strange smells, and those moments when you think you saw something, but you're not sure. If you're planning a trip to Japan soon, take a closer look at the location, history, and guest experiences when choosing a hotel. After all, the most important thing during a trip isn't how good the room looks, but whether you can sleep peacefully through the night. See you next time.